Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another action figure review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Jurassic World Dominion Thrash and Devour Tyrannosaurus Rex. Really quick, before I get into this video, I just want to say that out of all the Jurassic World Dominion figures that are being released right now, like the new Therizinosaurus and the truck thing, this is going to be the only one that I actually buy and review, because, I'll be honest with you, I am not excited for Jurassic World Dominion whatsoever. I mean, I still plan on watching the movie when it comes out, and I plan on making a review when it comes out, but I'm still not looking forward to, the movie itself. And I'll talk more about that in my review, but just know that I am not excited for Dominion whatsoever. And, of course, out of all the figures I plan on getting, I went with the T-Rex because, like I said in the past, when it comes to Jurassic Park, I am the biggest T-Rex fanboy. I absolutely love the T-Rex, so of course, it makes sense that I had to go with the T-Rex. So, yeah, so I point this out because if you expect any other figure reviews from Jurassic World Dominion, like the Therizinosaurus or whatever, don't, because I don't plan on buying those figures and I don't plan on reviewing them, so, yeah. This figure right here is the only figure from Dominion I plan on reviewing, so, yeah. Anyway, with that said, let's just get right into this. Of course, to start this review, we'll take a look at the paint. And the painting on this figure is actually really nice, so let's take a closer look. So as you can see here, most of the body is this very dark shade of brown, which I think looks really nice, and we even have some dark stripes going along the body here, which looks pretty cool. Unfortunately, the black sort of ends here, so the rest of the tail is just unpainted, which is unfortunate, but, Mattel, that's nothing really new, so it's whatever. Also, weirdly enough, the front of the legs have a little bit of airbrushing here, which is kind of weird. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It's just weird that they did this, but, that's besides the point. The underside of the figure, we have this nice grayish color, which looks nice. And again, it sort of ends at the base of the tail there, but, it's whatever. Going to the head here, we can see that the eyes are painted yellow with black pupils. And the teeth, the teeth here, they aren't actually painted. The teeth are casted in this rubbery material. So they're casted in this, yellowish, whitish, rubbery material. So that way, because before they just painted the teeth, and to be fair, it didn't really look great, but they actually, individually, or not individually, but they sculpted the teeth, so that way, the teeth look nicer. So, yeah, they've been doing this since the epic roaring T-Rex from Camp Cretaceous, so it's cool that they're doing that now, but yeah. And the inside of the mouth here is this nice glossy salmon color, which I think looks nice. Of course, for all the new Jurassic World figures coming out this year for Dominion and everything else like that, we have this stupid scan code. I don't get this. I don't understand what was wrong with the scan code being underneath the foot. I'm sorry, this just looks stupid. But, whatever. I'm not really, as stupid as it is, I'm not really going to display it like that, so, it's whatever. And, of course, lastly, the toenails here are painted a very, very dark shade of brown, almost a blackish color, which looks nice. And the fingernails aren't painted, which, isn't really new for Mattel, and honestly wouldn't be that much of a big deal. And it isn't a big deal, but the thing that's weird to me is that, last year with the Stomp and Escape Tyrannosaurus Rex, or whatever it was called, that figure actually had painted fingernails, so for me, it's just kind of weird that they went with painted fingernails and then just stopped with this T-Rex here. I don't 100% get that, but it's not the end of the world, as weird as it is, so, yeah. But overall, the painting on this figure, I think is pretty cool. I mean, yeah, you have the traditional, Mattel skipping out on paint, the fingernails and, painting on the tail. But overall, I really like the colors here. I think they're more accurate to the Jurassic Park T-Rex than the original, Mattel T-Rexes we've got in the past. So, yeah. The painting on this figure is pretty cool. So the painting, I'd say, definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the articulation. And the articulation on this figure is not bad. So let's take a closer look. So, of course, the arms here, they are on swivels, so they can move 360. One thing to point out, on my figure, this arm here was actually very loose out of the box. So what I had to do was I had to take a piece of cardboard and I just kind of stick it between like the arm itself and like the joint, so the arm can actually like hold poses now. Before it literally couldn't. It like literally dangled like that. So do be wary of that if your T-Rex has like loose limbs. So just kind of be on the lookout for that. But it is an easy fix. Just take like a little piece of cardboard, put it in there, and it's whatever. Now, of course, the legs here can move about back that far and forward that far. They can't move individually, which is kind of lame, but honestly, it's not the end of the world. And as I mentioned earlier, this stupid thing back here. And now for the main gimmick. So you take the tail here, and then you shake it like back and forth. You get this like cool thrashing gimmick, but like sometimes like it doesn't work. Like you can see, like it doesn't make the noise at all, so you kind of have to like you really have to force it to get it to actually like make the sound. But still, yeah, that's to you know, the cool thrashing feature, which is cool. But then there's also a button here, and if you push that, I like that Jurassic Park T-Rex sound, and we also get I always point this out, but that's the noise the male T-Rex from the Lost World makes, and for some reason they just gave it to Rexy. I don't fully get that, but, you know, whatever. A T-Rex roar is a T-Rex roar. And the main gimmick with this is that you take a human figure. Right here we have Owen. This is the Owen from Fallen Kingdom. I don't plan on getting the newer Owen, like I said at the beginning of the video. But you just sort of like take that, and then just... Oh. I tried to do like a cool swallowing thing. It kind of failed, I'm sorry. But basically, the throat of this figure is very deep, so you could just have like... your human figures just like sitting in the throat here. And that's why this figure is called the Thrash and Devour T-Rex, because it literally eats figures. So, yeah. Not like the super colossal T-Rex, but it still gives off that effect pretty decently, so... Yeah. And honestly, that's pretty much it for the articulation. The articulation on this figure, I think, is pretty cool. Like I said, unfortunately, the arm on mine is very loose, but that is a very easy fix. So just, you know, take if your arms are loose on your T-Rex figure, then just like kind of go in there and stick like a piece of cardboard. In fact, you can like kind of see like a little bit of white there. So yeah, that holds the arm, or not holds it, but it makes sure it's like strong enough so it can like hold on its own. So yeah, but other than that though, I think the articulation here is pretty cool, and I think the gimmick is pretty cool. We actually have seen this before with the, was it Thrash and Devour Indominus Rex? I don't know. I didn't get that figure because I don't like the Indominus Rex, so yeah. But this is a new Devour sort of figure, you know, with the T-Rex, so there we go. So yeah, that's it for the articulation. Not bad, so the articulation, I'd say, gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the sculpt, and the sculpting on this figure, it's not bad by any means, but there are some things that I don't necessarily like about it, so let's take a closer look. So, first of all, one thing I want to point out, and this is like a very minor thing, in fact, I'd say like this is a nitpick if anything, but one thing that I want to point out about this figure is that the tail itself, now I think the actual length of the tail, I think is fine. It's just the angle it's at. For some reason, they had the tail, like, pointing upwards. And I don't know why. It's such a minor thing. But for some reason, it just really irks me. Like, if it was just, like, straight, like, the tail was just, like, straight, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But, like, the tail is sticking straight up and, like, I don't know. Again, I get it's, like, a very minor thing. But for me, at least, I'm still just kind of, like, that irks me. I'm sorry, like, that just really irks me. I don't know why, but, yeah. If the tail is straight, that'd be understandable, but it's not, so, for me, the tail looks a little weird, but that's just me. And another thing I don't like about the sculpting here is the head itself. The head, I don't get what happened here, because, like, now, first of all, one thing I want to point out is that for Jurassic World Dominion, uh, they actually went ahead and redesigned the T-Rex's head to be more accurate to the original Jurassic Park T-Rex's head. You know, like you see that in the prologue and even in Jurassic World Evolution. And I think the new T-Rex head sculpt design, whatever, I think the new T-Rex head looks great and much better than like the original Jurassic World T-Rex head. But they didn't redesign this figure. Instead, this figure has the, you know, traditional Jurassic World T-Rex head, which wouldn't be a problem because the head itself, like, there are some other issues I have with the head. First of all, the head, I think, is way too big, and it actually looks pretty weird and disproportionate on this figure. Like, you look at, like, all of this, and then you compare it to the body. Like, this is literally half the size of the body, and I don't know, I just think that looks really weird. You know, if they made the figure itself bigger and just left the head, like, the same size as it is, then, like, I think, like, that'd be fine. You wouldn't have to make any sort of adjustments. And I get why the head is, like, as weird as it is, because, like, you know, the whole devouring gimmick. I get that. But still, like, aesthetically speaking, it just looks weird. And I get why, like, you know, they didn't change the actual size of this figure. This figure is the same size as all the other Mattel T-Rexes that we've gotten in the past. So, I get it. You gotta have that consistency. But for this figure, it would have been really nice if they, like, kind of broke the rule and just made this T-Rex, like, just like the body, the tail, and everything like that. Just make this figure, like, slightly bigger than the other T-Rexes we've gotten in the past. But I digress. But yeah, I think the head is way too big. And also, like, the snout on this animal, like, it's really short and it's really, like, small. And you can't really tell on camera, but, like, in person, you could easily tell that, like, the sculpting for the snout here is very small. And I'll put up pictures of, like, other Mattel T-Rexes we've gotten in the past and, like, compare the two. But, yeah, the sculpting for the snout is very small, and I just think it looks very weird. One more thing I want to point out is that I think the face on this figure is way too wide. Again, I get it. It's because you gotta have that, devouring gimmick, but still, the wide face just looks really goofy. Like, unbelievably goofy. Like I said, if they just made, like, the rest of the figure bigger and just left, like, the head the same, I wouldn't be complaining. Or, actually, I would be complaining. Just, like, make the snout bigger and whatnot. But, yeah, just, like, make, like, some modifications. Make, like, the body bigger so it's, like, proportionate. But, yeah, and I'll put a picture, because, like, I can't really show you here because, like, I don't have a whole lot of room to, like, turn this figure, like, you know, facing the camera. But just know that, like, I'll put a picture, but when you look at this figure head on, it looks very goofy. But, yeah. And, yeah, it is a shame that they didn't go with the new, like, Jurassic Park style T-Rex head for the, like, Dominion and, like, Evolution 2 for this figure. I think that would have looked really cool. But to be fair, Jurassic World Evolution, we saw the Return to Jurassic Park DLC, which gave us much better looking raptors. And despite that, for all the raptor figures we get, and even the new Amber Collection Raptor, or Hammond Collection Raptors we're getting, they're still using, like, the Jurassic World Raptor heads, and it's like, why? Just use the Jurassic Park Raptor heads. It makes no sense, but I digress. But other than those issues, though, I think the sculpting on this figure is fine enough. And even, like, the bigger head and, like, the weird tail, like, angle, it's still not a deal breaker. I still think that this figure looks nice, but if you take a closer look at this figure, you can point out some, like, minor things that admittedly do look very weird. But overall, the sculpting on this figure, it's not terrible. It's not great either, but it's definitely not terrible. So, the sculpting on this figure, I'd say gets 3/4 of a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the detailing, and the detailing on this figure is really good, so let's take a closer look at that. So, starting off with the head here, we can see all of the little scales and all, like, little, like, scars in the face here. They are detailed very nicely. A lot of great defining here as well. And even the inside of the mouth has a lot of really nice detailing as well. Like, the throat there is wide as it is. It's detailed very nicely, and, like, the tongue and everything like that. A lot of great detailing here. On the side, we have a lot of, a lot more, like, wrinkles and, like, scaling and whatnot, which is just detailed very nicely. And going to the arms here, again, we have a lot more like wrinkles and scaling, which looks great, and a really nice amount of musculature here. So again, that looks really good. And the start of the leg here, we have a lot of nice musculature, and again, we have a bunch of like different scales and like creases and whatnot. And even the feet have a lot of really nice detailing as well, like the toes here, like all the scaling here is really nicely defined. And going to the tail here, again, we have a lot more of the, a lot more musculature and all the scaling and all the creases and everything like that. Detailing here is very nice. The end of the tail here looks a little weird, but it's not the end of the world because the rest of the sculpting is fantastic. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the detailing. Everything here is very nicely defined. Everything here looks great. So overall, I think the detail on this figure definitely gets a pass. Now we'll do some size comparisons. Here is the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Epic Roaring Tyrannosaurus Rex. Here we have the Jurassic World Stomp and Escape. I forget what this thing is called, but here we have the Jurassic World Stomp and Escape Tyrannosaurus Rex. Here we have the Jurassic World Legacy Collection Extreme Chomping T-Rex. This is the one that came with the this is the one that came with the Ford Explorer. And of course, here we have some hand sanitizer. And here we have Dr. Billy Grant. So there you go. So at the end of the day, should you get this figure? This is a flawed figure. I think the head, is a little weird. The shortness of the snout, I think, is weird. The tail pointing upwards, I think, is weird. And even the lack of painting for the fingernails, like, not the end of the world at all, but it's just kind of weird how last year we had a T-Rex with painted fingernails, and then this year we have a T-Rex with no painted fingernails. So there are definitely some things that I'm not the biggest fan of when it comes to this figure. But overall, I still like this figure. I still think it's a cool figure. I think the devouring gimmick is pretty cool. I think, pressing the button itself, making this figure roar, I think that feels really cool and really satisfying. And, yeah, overall, I do like this figure. Like, despite the flaws I have with it, it's still a very fun figure that, if you're buying this for a kid, I think a kid will definitely enjoy this. And even if you're a collector, I still think this looks nice. I mean, like I said, there are some, sculpting issues that I think look a little weird, but if you just have this guy sitting on a shelf and, you don't look at it too closely, then, honestly, I do think that this figure is a very nice display piece. So, at the end of the day, should you get this, honestly, I'd say yeah. I mean, it's not the best Mattel T-Rex, and this figure is nowhere near as good as, the Kenner T-Rexes we've gotten in the past, but overall, as far as, T-Rex figures go, this guy isn't terrible. As far as price tags go, you're looking at about, $40, which isn't bad. That's typically how much these bigger electronic T-Rexes go for, so honestly, yeah, I'd say this isn't an amazing figure, but if you want this figure, I don't think there'd be any harm in buying it, because I do think that this is a nice figure. So, yeah. Get this figure if you can. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Zack out.